Good day, viewers from Kenya and around the world. I'm Martha Wajero. This is the Big Shark Show on politics, a show that takes an in-depth analysis on topics ranging from politics, business, arts and culture, and not forgetting sports. But before we begin, let's look at what's making headlines. Deputy Ruto asked to apologize after claiming Ameru people are so loyal they will kill if asked to. Raila dismisses claims he's pushing for cabinet reshuffle to have his people in government. Joho wants to be president. Let him be elected, Raila said. In 1992, Kenya held its first multi-party election in 26 years. And since this reintroduction of multipartyism, the politics of tribes has been blamed for the country's troubles. This has led to a system under which leaders channel government resources to their ethnic supporters to ensure their political survival. In turn, their supporters begin to feel entitled to the government's resources. The politics of ethnicity therefore becomes an inter-community competition, not merely for the resources. This isn't a problem only in Kenya. Studies have showed that many African countries are finding it difficult to manage diversity, and particularly ethnicity. In Kenya, tribal politics has given rise to rampant corruption, social process, imprisonment of the ethnic communities, as well as full-blown violence. Let's take an in-depth look at the ethics of politics in Kenya. We have three politicians with us today that will hear from us. But before that, let's talk to Hassan, who is on ground, to give us more information. You can join in on our conversation using our social media platforms: Facebook, The Big Shark Show, and Twitter, The Big Shark Show.
Ethnic politics in Kenya has been used as a means of survival since the independence of this country. The Jomo Kenyatta government used ethnicity as a means of mobilizing and staying in power. The Moi government flourished ethnicity, and your last name defined if you could get a job or not. And in terms of development was taken to areas that were deemed as supporters in government. In this country, in 2007, Kenya went to the brink of civil war down due to ethnic politics in Kenya. Is it time for us to change our systems of governance and do away with politics of ethnicity?
Reading from one of the tweets, someone is asking, has anything changed since 2007 when violence broke out after a disputed election? Well, I feel politicians and religious leaders are working very hard to promote national development in Kenya. Thank you very much for that. Let's get more information from Hassan, who is on ground. Hassan, can you get me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So tell me, what are the people saying about ethnicity in politics in Kenya?
Thank you, Martha. A lot of people that we have spoken to on the ground in Nairobi and other parts of the city is that ethnic politics has really damaged their lives. They've moved from places where they used to live for being perceived as supporting, either the opposition or the government. And a lot of times it's very painful for them because they've known people for over 10 years. And when politics comes around, electioneering time, everything becomes tensed. So a lot of them really talk to us and say that it's time that Kenyans are shunned ethnic politics and that people should vote for ideology rather than ethnicity.
Thank you very much, Hassan. Thank you very much. Okay, someone from Facebook is asking, are there any two ideological differences between Kenya's two main coalitions? Well, I think the two main coalitions are, let's say, the NASA and Jubilee, which are clearly dividing Kenya along tribal lines. Ethnicity of politics has been an issue not only in Kenya but around the world, referring to the campaigns of 2007 and 2017, how Kenya was divided along tribal lines. In studio, we have Muhammad Ali, MP of Nyali County and journalist of Kenya's popular Jicho Pevu series. Welcome, Muhammad Ali, to the studio. Firstly, Muhammad Ali, what makes politics slip to ethnicity?
I think ethnicity is not about the politicians themselves. It's about all of us. It's a culture that has been deep inside our heart since 1963 when Kenya got its independence, because things were divided according to regions. Certain regions will benefit more than the other regions. But it grew much bigger to now to have a tribalism platform. But I think, in my own perspective, for us to fight tribalism, it must start with us, the people down there. We can't be blaming the politician all the time, and yet we are the biggest, we practice tribalism from that village level. So I think it's upon all of us. During the KANU days, during the President Moi days, it was difficult to identify one by the tribe. But it has grown now that if you mention your first name, somebody will want to know your second name so that he can identify your tribe. So I think it's upon us all to start ignoring this thing, focus and think as Kenyans, work as one, and love each other as one. And this thing will be a history.
Thank you very much, Muhammad Ali. Let me kindly pause you there as I bring in Boniface Mwangi into the conversation. Welcome, Boniface Mwangi, to our studios. So, Boniface Mwangi, we have been having an ongoing conversation regarding the topic of discussion, ethnicity of politics, with Muhammad Ali, who has just said that ethnicity is not about the politicians themselves. It is about all of us. And it has been deep inside our hearts since 1963 when Kenya got its independence. Certain regions are better than others, and we can't blame the politicians themselves. It has to start from us as ourselves Kenyans. What is your take on this?
As a country, we lack national identity, so it's the easiest way to identify yourself is a community. So everyday life, we are Kenyans, and we live with our different communities together, or different ethnicities. When it comes to election time, our politicians have perfected the art of mobilizing along tribal lines. So it's as a country that lacks national value and national identity, it's very easy to go back to a tribal identity as a community, or even as a voter. So when people go to vote, instead of voting for merit and voting for integrity or voting for someone's policies and manifesto, they vote for the community and the tribe.
Okay, having said that, which is opposing what Muhammad Ali has just said, let me get back to Muhammad Ali for the next question. Muhammad Ali, why do politicians hide behind their tribes when caught up in mistakes?
Well, because they know that the only way to hide is to hide through their people. And you see, like when you steal alone, but when you're caught, you want to make your people believe that I am being punished because of you. We've seen a lot of politicians stealing and then saying that I'm being crucified. They are not targeting me, they are targeting you people. But it's not the people who stole, it's that person as an individual who stole from the people of this country.
Okay, interesting. Let's keep the conversation going. You can send in your questions on our social media handles. Facebook is The Big Shark Show and Twitter is Big Shark Show, using the hashtag ethnicity of politics in Kenya. As I bring in our third politician, Charles Munyi, MP of Kiamba constituency. Welcome, Charles Munyi. What is your own view on this?
Well, it is because of resources. You know, resources are scarce in any one country. So every time people believe that they can only benefit from resources in their country depending on the people who are leading them, depending who is in the presidency, depending on who is in the cabinet. That is when you find now people wanting to ensure that the people from their respective tribes form government, and more importantly, are in all manner of administrative units, so that they can be able to take resources back to them. Whether that is true or not, that is another story, but bottom line, that's what makes people want their leaders or their people from their tribes to participate in politics by way of being at the top.
Okay, Honorable Charles, let me get back to Boniface Mwangi. Boniface Mwangi, Honorable Muhammad Ali has mentioned that politicians hide behind their tribes when caught up in mistakes because they know that the only way to hide behind their mistakes is through their people. And this has been caused rather by mental slavery that has been there for many years. What is your opinion about this, Boniface?
Kenyans actually forget that when someone steals, they don't steal for the community, they steal for themselves. But as voters, we are idiots. We think that because someone has stolen a lot of money, they're going to share with us. So we say, we protect our thief. And there lies the problem. Yes, we can blame politicians, but even the voters has a role to play because it's the voters who decides who gets elected. So at the end of the day, we are equally to blame, but I think as a leader, the leaders have taken that advantage of we being idiots and we've been easily misled to take advantage and to just ensure that tribalism is the only thing that matters when you're going to vote. Or rather, tribe matters when you're going to vote.
Okay, back to you, Honorable Charles. Boniface Mwangi has just said that Kenyans are to be blamed because we don't vote wisely. But the leaders, on the other hand, are taking advantage of this. What is your thought about politicians hiding behind their mistakes?
Number one, you must remember that this country was tribal in the sense that we had tribes way back, even before the white people came and colonized us. We were Kikuyus, we were Kambas, we were Merus, we were Kalenjins, we had our own leadership structures. When now we became one country, independent Kenya, and we were called Kenya as a country, efforts were not put in place to ensure that there is cohesiveness. People appreciate that much as you had your own structure down there, now you needed to be nationalistic, now you needed to start looking at things from a national perspective. So every time we look at each other, we see each other as Kikuyus, Murangia, Ambians, Merus, Kalenjins. And that is why every time a politician has a problem, they find it much easier to go back to where they started, to their tribe, so that they feel protected therein, believing that, or rather there are people believing that in the event these people get destroyed, it is the whole community that will be destroyed. So they find solace in sitting back in their tribal cocoons and working from that particular perspective. When things are working well, they don't revert to their tribe, but when things are not working, they find it much easier to dash back there and get the so-called protection.
Okay, reading again from our Twitter, Grace is asking, Boniface Mwangi, as an activist, what have you done since 2007 to fight tribalism in Kenya?
I did Picha Mtaani, the traveling exhibition, which we were showing pictures of the violence to tell guys not to get involved in violence. I ran a campaign that was not tribal. I ran a very clean campaign that was not invoking tribe or tribalism to get elected. So I'm playing my own small role. I have 3 kids. I've given them names that are not Kikuyu names. My firstborn has a Zulu name, secondborn has an Arabic name, and my lastborn has a Luo name, and their mother is Kikuyu. So I'm playing my own small role in my own small way.
Okay, let me pause there. Honorable Charles, what is your final words for Kenyans out here?
Be one, let us like each other, let us believe in each other. It doesn't matter how many pieces of legislation we pass on matters working together, cohesion, as long as it doesn't come from deep within you, it will not work.
Thank you very much, Honorable Charles Munyi, for your time. Back to Boniface Mwangi. Lastly, kindly tell Kenyans out here your final say regarding ethnicity of politics in Kenya.
You're being used by politicians. At the end of the day, you're going to suffer. When they steal that money, it doesn't come to the tribe, it comes to individuals. If you are broke today and you go to town, you can't go and say, I'm Kikuyu, give me those tomatoes or give me chips, because Uhuru is Kikuyu. If you're sick, you don't go to the hospital and say, Kikuyu is my tribe, so treat me for free. There's nothing free just because of your tribe. So when they come and tell you because you're Kikuyu or Kalenjin or Luo, you're going to benefit, it's a lie. What you need is the leaders in power to create a bigger cake, a bigger national cake for everyone to get an equal share. But tribe is not going to help this country.
Let's keep the conversation going. Remember, this is the Big Shark Show. We come to you giving you an in-depth analysis of topics ranging from politics, business, sports, and not forgetting arts and culture. Keep the conversation going on our social media handles, Facebook, The Big Shark Show, and Twitter, Big Shark Show. Okay, let me take the last tweet, and someone is asking, why are there such bitter contests every election cycle? Okay, from the content our politicians and our correspondent on ground has given us, I feel that this is because of corruption. Our leaders are allowing themselves to take part in corruption, which is bringing a bitter contest every election period. In my opinion, Kenyan negotiated democracy can be reached by creating more executive positions beyond the president and deputy president to accommodate for tribes including mainly the Kikuyu, Kalenjin, Luo and Luya. Kenya have tried using the model of power sharing that was placed after the 2007 election, which fueled the post-election violence. The new structure guided by the peace accord created 3 new executive positions, a prime minister and 2 deputy prime ministers. In my opinion, changes like this could lead to a realignment of political parties. If representatives of a majority of Kenyan's ethnic groups were guaranteed senior positions in government, politicians would gradually move away from ethnicity as a tool for political mobilization and towards ideological campaigns and prioritize socio-economical development in Kenya. Thank you so much for watching. This is Politics on the Big Shark Show. Catch me next time on Business on the Big Shark Show, where I'll be talking about how Kenyans have moved from the traditional market into the digital market. Thank you so much for watching once again. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. See you next time. Bye.